gentlemen, and welcome back to another PC Boiz podcast. I am your host, Logan Locke. Yes, I still don't have OBS working. I'm currently in the process of getting a new PC, so that should probably happen within about a few weeks or so. Once I get a new PC and get the OBS and everything figured out on that, and the green screen and everything, we'll be back to normal. So, like, having the screen capture and everything will be all back up. It's just the computer that I have, I can't even really call it a PC because it's not what people think is a PC. It's not good. It's not good at all. It's not good at running OBS or multiple things at once. So, yeah, it's time for an upgrade. But I'm going to be getting a gaming PC. Going to be probably getting a new microphone as well. I don't know if I'll have to get a different arm to hold it on my table and stuff, but I might have to. We'll see how that works. But if I need to get a new one, then I will. Well, I'm sorry, I want to raise that. I like it to be in the shot. It's cool. It's fancy. But yeah. So today we are going to be doing a review on Captain America: Brave New World, and talking about Daredevil and the MCU going forward with the rest of the projects this year as well. So I like to do my reviews spoiler free, then moving into spoilers in the same video. I don't like to do them separately. I think it's kind of pointless. I think it's just fair to do the spoiler free, then the spoilers. So, let me do my spoiler free review really quick. And if you don't want to listen to the spoilers, you don't have to. You can skip later into the video. And, you know, I'll have, of course, me talking about the other Marvel stuff that's coming up. But basically, what I can say about Captain America in a spoiler-free manner is that this movie basically feels like Winter Soldier and Civil War, but done worse. And it feels like a Incredible Hulk 2 without the Hulk. That's the best way I can describe it to you guys without giving away any major plot points or anything. The dialogue is very meh in the movie. It's not any of the best dialogue that we've had. The villain motivation is kind of underwhelming, especially with the villain that we are talking about. As well as, you know, some of the, green screen usage in this is very obvious, and it's like, ew, that's not great. And I know this movie's been through a lot of reshoots. It's been through hell, production-wise. So the fact that it came out even mildly entertaining is actually a good thing, because it could have been much worse than it was, okay? Anthony Mackie did perfectly fine. Personally, I think Harrison Ford had the best role, played it the best in the entire movie out of everybody. But yeah, you can definitely tell that reshoots plagued this movie, and it was not that good at all. Because of, you know, everything that happened behind the scenes. Literally, the movie that was shot prior to this one made more sense. Like, Isaiah Bradley's involvement, the Serpent Society's involvement in the original version of this movie was better than what we got. What we got just felt weird. But yeah, this felt more like an Incredible Hulk sequel that they just slapped Captain America into and slapped the name Captain America onto the movie. That's what this felt like to me personally. But I'm hoping that going forward, Sam has something that makes him stand out from Steve Rogers, because the stuff we see in this movie feels like stuff we've already seen in Captain America, the First Avenger, Civil War, and the Winter Soldier, but not done half as well. Especially like the political, you know, narrative that they have going on inside of it. The, what's supposed to be like the big surprise villain, the mastermind. You know who the mastermind is prior, like, early in the movie. When you watch, Winter Soldier, you know that somebody's infiltrated, you know, S.H.I.E.L.D., they're targeting Nick Fury. You come to find out it's Hydra and the Winter Soldier, but you don't know who the Winter Soldier is. And then you come to find out that actually it's, you know, Adrian Pierce, at least I think that was his name, or Alexander Pierce, who's behind the whole Hydra thing going on at S.H.I.E.L.D. And it builds, right? Like, that intrigue builds throughout the entire movie. The Winter Soldier's identity, what the major goal is of Hydra and stuff. The movie very much builds that up. In this movie, it's not like that. The introduction to, like, the super soldier brainwashing is done in such a very fast and quick-paced manner in terms of, like, how long it takes from the beginning of the movie to get there. And then it's like, oh, we're gonna figure out this stuff, but you literally figure out the entire, like, mastermind plan halfway through the film. Instead of, like, the last third act of the film, and it feels so underwhelming. Like, when you look at what what Hydra was shooting for in Winter Soldier compared to what, the leader's doing in this movie, it's like, it's not even comparable, in all honesty. But yeah, my final rating on the movie is a 6 out of 10. And that's all I can say, spoiler free. That's all that I can say without getting into the nitty gritty. But for those of you that want my spoiler review, that's what's coming up right now. So if you don't want spoilers, either fast forward in the video to my other stuff I talk about, or just end the video. Alright, so this movie starts off with Sam and Joaquin Torres going to Mexico to recover adamantium, or a sample of adamantium meant for Japan. And this is where the Serpent Society comes in, except they're not superpowered, and they're just mercenaries. And then, Giancarlo Esposito, is in here playing he's playing Sidewinder, and originally he was supposed to play a whole different character. I think it was like George Washington. It's weird. It's not like the President George Washington, but the name of the character was like George Washington. But at the end of the day, it was just, it wasn't what it was supposed to be originally. It's not a terrible opening scene. I've seen people complain a lot about the fact that, the fight scenes are very slow. And my argument to that would be, like, I know a lot of people are saying that, but I'm actually okay with that because Sam is a normal human. And he's not going to be as fast as Steve Rogers. It would actually piss me off if they gave Sam Wilson a fast, quick fight style like Steve Rogers, despite the fact that he has no super soldier serum and he's a normal human being. That, in my opinion, would have made me a lot more mad because it wouldn't make any sense to me, personally. Even in the world of Marvel, it wouldn't make sense for him to be doing Steve Rogers things without the super soldier serum. And so they end up getting the adamantium, bringing it back to the U.S. for basically this meeting between the Japan Prime Minister, the Prime Minister of some European country. I can't remember specifically which one it was. It could have been France or something like that, I think. And then India. They were there talking about adamantium and the fact that, President Ross is trying to get this treaty together so that way all the countries can mine the adamantium from the Eternal Celestial that we finally follow up on from that movie. But the only plot point of that is, that thing in the middle of the ocean, that alien being, that elemental being. Yeah. So, that has adamantium, and we're gonna take it. I feel like they could have done something much more interesting. World governments, being like, oh, shoot, a Celestial broke out of the Earth. You'd think that would cause a lot of panic, or a much deeper discussion than, ooh, resources. Like, I get in real life, countries go to war for resources. But in Marvel, you see a big celestial being coming out of the planet, and the first thought you have isn't, this could destroy us. Let's try to come up with something to, defend the planet from, these kind of beings or something along those lines. It's, no, let's just get the resources it has. To me, that's so ridiculous, It's like, you could have done something more creative. It's not the worst thing they could have done. Like, I get this is supposed to be a more ground level Marvel movie in the, military sense and stuff like that, and political sphere. But at the same time, it's like, you could have done something better, more creative with that. But anyways, that's a minor gripe. But yeah. And so that's kind of part of the plot point of Ross's story in this movie. He's the president. He's trying to make sure that every country can get adamantium to look like a good leader for Betty, his daughter, who hasn't talked to him in years since, the Incredible Hulk and stuff. And ultimately, that's kind of his big arc in this movie is he wants to, get his daughter back in his life and, he wants to be a good president and do the right thing and try to turn a new leaf in his life instead of being a, military brute force commander. So that's one of the major things in this movie. And of course, we follow, Isaiah Bradley and Sam and Joaquin. They're doing some training and stuff like that. And Isaiah, is not happy with Sam working with the government. But Sam ends up getting him invited to the White House, but then there's this music that gets played. Now this music and phone flashes on his phone and other people's phones essentially activates a brainwash program, where when this music plays called Mr. Blue, which is a callback to the Incredible Hulk, where, I think it's Samuel Stearns, I think is his name. I'm just gonna call him Stearns. But Dr. Stearns, he is Mr. Blue. That's like the code name he uses when he's contacting Bruce Banner about his blood and stuff like that. And so it's a nice callback to that, but this song triggers like all the people that had their phones flashing to essentially go into assassinate the president mode, which you come to find out later on was to get him to turn into the Red Hulk. Like, the leader is using these pills to keep Thaddeus Ross alive. So Thaddeus Ross basically imprisons Stearns after the events of the Incredible Hulk, framing him for everything that happened, holding him in this, captivity. He ends up getting like a heart disease or something. He was dying, so he had, Samuel Stearns make these pills to keep him alive, but because he was not given the freedom that he was promised, Stearns then ends up putting like small amounts of gamma into these pills, and that eventually is what leads him to become Red Hulk. So the whole like goal of the leader in this movie is to ruin the reputation of Thaddeus Ross and to make him Hulk out. That's like his whole arc in this movie. Now when you compare that to Captain America the Winter Soldier, where Hydra's like, yeah, we're gonna eliminate millions of people off the face of the earth because we don't want them to pose a threat to the new world order that we're trying to initiate here. It's very different. I feel like Samuel Stearns' character, the leader, with how smart he is in the comics, and especially just in general, he should be able to come up with a much better, more menacing plan than I just want to ruin Thaddeus Ross's, how people perceive him, his perception, his legacy. It's just stupid to me. I'm like, you could do more than what you're doing. It's so dumb. He could have had more to do. But yeah, basically, half of this movie is, you have Sam trying to prove that Isaiah Bradley is innocent and that he was brainwashed to kill the president on behalf of the leader, who is the one that's behind everything. And that's what Sam's trying to do, while also trying to help Thunderbolt Ross not go to war with Japan, because there's a scene later on in the movie, like the second to last fight scene, which is basically 2 American fighter jets versus Falcon, Captain America, and 2 Japanese fighter jets. And they're like bombing and firing upon each other's like navies around the Celestial, which they call Celestial Island, in this battle for adamantium, except the US pilots are being controlled by the brainwash program that was made by the leader and stuff. So you're just watching this whole thing and you're like, so Captain America's trying to stop a world war from happening. But it's interesting because you would think Samuel Stearns starting a world war would be a greater threat, right? Like, that should be, like, the main villain's like, oh yes, I'm gonna start a world war. No! The guy is literally like, I just want to hurt Thunderbolt Ross. So if a world war starts by chance because of what I'm doing, then, okay, but that's not what I'm trying to do. Like, he's not trying to start a world war, like, that's not his goal, but he's also using tactics that would initiate another world war, which is a big deal, but he doesn't care about that. Like, he's like, no, I just want Thunderbolt Ross to be shown to be the monster that he actually is, the man that he truly is, that he's hiding from everybody. He doesn't even want to start a world war. He's just like, well, if it happens, it happens. You see how dumb that sounds? Like, the leader, you would think, would be like, yeah, I want to start a world war, because that would cause a lot of havoc, negative. I mean, that would give, yes, it would give Thaddeus Ross, right, a bad perception in the eyes of the American people and on a worldwide scale. World War III happening. But his whole goal in this movie is to make Thaddeus Ross Hulk out. That's it. Everything that he does is just to make him Hulk out. So him starting a potential World War III, starting with attacking Japan, is just there to get Thaddeus Ross to transform into the Hulk. Doesn't care if the World War happens or not. Which I think would be a much more urgent, thing. Because I'm like, okay, Thaddeus Ross turning into Hulk is, like, dangerous and a big deal. But a world war is a much bigger issue than creating a Hulk. You know? I mean, I guess in the Marvel Universe, you know, you could make the argument that it's just as bad, but it's less interesting to me. You know what I mean? Like, if his whole goal was to start a world war, then that would make sense. Let's take the leader who is one of the smartest people in Marvel and compare him to Baron Zemo in the MCU. Let's just take the two MCU, you know, versions that we have. Compare them. Baron Zemo just wanted the Avengers to fight each other, to break apart in a basically self-suicide plan. He didn't care if he lived or died. His whole goal was, I want the Avengers to tear each other apart. That's my revenge, and I can die happy knowing that, because of what they did to my family. And he was very patient, methodical, and smart about the whole plan. Didn't need to use supervillain powers or anything. And when it comes to the leader, his whole big plan, and he's much smarter than Baron Zemo, mind you, his big plan is just make Thaddeus Ross look bad. Destroy his reputation. The two storylines are similar in a way. I want to do wrong and basically ruin the thing that brought pain to me, right? But one is done so well and meaningfully, and the other one is done where it's like, you could have had bigger ambitions, you know, than destroying Thaddeus Ross's, public perception. I was literally, like, kind of saddened. When you watch Captain America 1, right? The Nazis want to bomb the world. That's pretty urgent. Captain America Winter Soldier. Hydra wants to murder millions of people preemptively so they don't basically get in the way of the New World Order that Hydra has planned. Pretty urgent. Captain America Civil War. Right? Captain America's trying to save Bucky, so there's a personal conflict in there. But at the same time, you come to find out about Iron Man's parents and how they died, and then you also come to find out that the guy behind everything wasn't trying to unleash super soldiers upon the world. He's just on a revenge mission to destroy the Avengers. And the reason that works is because we care about the Avengers. We've been following the Avengers all the way till Civil War. We've built a connection and relationship with those characters. So to see them fight each other and literally splitting the Avengers before Thanos comes, which we already knew was going to happen, which is a big deal, but to see people that were friends, family, fighting each other, like, to kill each other, was heartbreaking. Even though it wasn't a big global domination plot. Like, neither of these plots are global domination, Civil War and Brave New World. But the emotional impact of Civil War worked because we cared about the characters, because we cared about everything else going on. The issue with Brave New World is we haven't seen Thaddeus Ross in a significant way since 2008. He did make a brief appearance in Black Widow. He made a brief appearance in Civil War, but nothing to make us feel for him. They try to make up all that groundwork in this film. And that's a problem. Because you're trying to do years of character building and years of getting us invested into the character, where in Civil War we had years to develop a relationship with Iron Man, Black Widow, Steve Rogers, Bucky Barnes. We've had years to develop those relationships and multiple films. When it comes to Brave New World with Thaddeus Ross, we had him in 2008's Incredible Hulk, where he was a commanding military guy, and that was basically it. And basically the next two appearances he had, he was the same guy. So you're trying to do all that in one film. They did it as well as it could, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as good as taking their time to build Thaddeus Ross up properly. And that's why when he turns into the Hulk and all this stuff happens, it doesn't feel urgent. It doesn't feel like it matters really. Like, oh no, there's a new Hulk busting the White House and stuff. I mean, yeah, but a world war would be a much bigger impact. You know? At least in the grander scope of the world of Marvel, especially the 616 universe. So to me, like, it did some things Civil War and Winter Soldier did, Brave New World did, but it just did it in worse ways. Like, the writing around it and the reshoots and everything just make it just subpar. And then, I feel bad for Anthony Mackie, too, because it's like, despite his comments on Captain America not representing America and stuff, which I do take a little, offense to, like, I'm not gonna lie, like, I think that those comments were really stupid and unnecessary. He's allowed to have his own opinions, like, he's free to do so. I'm just saying I don't agree with Captain America not standing for the ideals of what America is supposed to be. Captain America rebels against the US government all the time in the comics and in the MCU, but he stands for what America is supposed to be, like the best of what America is supposed to be. He's a symbol of the best of America. Even though he doesn't always agree with the current American government. But he's always a symbol for America and the great things about America. So, even though I have gripes with that stuff, I don't really let it affect the movie. I just let it stand on its own. Captain Marvel was a little bit different because it wasn't just like one comment that Brie Larson made, it was many. She's kind of on a redemption arc now, thankfully. But, anywho, the issue I have with this film is that it's not a shit film. I hate the Marvels much more. I hate Captain Marvel much more. Ant-Man and the Wasp, or Quantumania, I hate much more. And I hate Spider-Man Far From Home much more. I know some people probably are like, how do you hate Spider-Man Far From Home? Guys, I fucking hate that movie so much. Spider-Man in Europe, I hate the idea of. I mean, I don't mind him having a scene or two, being in another country or something, but the whole movie is a little much. And the villain's motivation sucks so much ass, I didn't like it. And then they just completely washed away the consequences of the ending of Far From Home, which was the only good part about that movie, in my opinion, in No Way Home. But anyways, I like this movie more than all those ones I just listed, okay? It's not a terrible film, but it takes stuff from prior Marvel movies, especially Captain America films that were done better, and made them worse. And that's why I didn't like. And, Sam doesn't really have his own movie or his own stakes or anything. This movie feels like I said earlier, a Incredible Hulk 2, but with Captain America in it instead of the Hulk. So it's not really Captain America-centric to me, and Sam's story arcs and the things dealt with in this movie have already been done before in the MCU. It's nothing new. It's regurgitated but worse. And that sucks. I thought the fighting was fine. The Red Hulk fight scene was absolutely phenomenal. I'm so happy we finally got a, Rage Monster Hulk again. So Hulk fans will be happy about that 7-minute fight scene, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, dude, I'm sorry, Sam Wilson fighting the Hulk is just laughable. Even with the vibranium suit, which by the way, can I just make a side note? Vibranium in the MCU sucks. Anytime someone has a vibranium suit, it takes away all tension out of a fight. Because it just seems like whoever is wearing the suit is impervious to any kind of damage. Black Panther, fucking, Captain America now, like, it's not fun. I want to feel like this person can die. I want to be on the edge of my seat, not being like, well, that suit's just going to absorb all the damage anyway, so he's fine. Especially when it's against a Hulk. I mean, the Hulk, don't get me wrong, was punting this guy all over the place, but the fact that he could survive being smashed against cars as a normal guy, even in a vibranium suit, that can withstand that impact, your body is still going to feel the impact based upon gravity. Vibranium might be able to stop bullets, but it can't stop fucking gravity or force. It just can't. Physically, that's impossible. If you're wearing, like, let's say in the real world, you're wearing like a full body armor suit, and you get flung into a tree at 60 miles per hour, you're breaking bones, if not just straight up dying or being paralyzed. Doesn't matter how heavy that armor is, okay? I get it, it's a superhero movie, but it's the Hulk, for crying out loud. Don't nerf the Hulk. Any Hulk, for that matter. But yeah, this movie wasn't as bad as I thought going in. I actually walked out happy. Not like, this is a great movie, but I walked out like, wow, that was better than what I thought it was going to be. So that's a plus. And that's why I gave it a 6 out of 10. It's a very average film. It does stuff that's already been done before, but worse. You can clearly tell where the reshoots are. Some of the things in it I think are so underwhelming. Like, the leader and his whole plan. Like, you could have done so much more with that. With the plot line of, oh, the U.S. and Japan could start World War III with this fight over Celestial Island. World War III starting should have been the big plan. Because it would do two things. The stakes would have been higher, right? The stakes would have been higher. And on top of that, it also would have made Thaddeus Ross Hulk out under the pressure. And that's the crazy part I was thinking about. That whole sequence takes place, which is the second to last big fight sequence of the movie, takes place right before the White House / Red Hulk fight scene. I was sitting there thinking to myself, if Samuel Stern, the leader, managed to almost start World War III as his big end game, and on top of that, he got Thaddeus Ross to turn into the Hulk in the middle of the Indian Ocean, that would have been a better, finale for me than what we got. Because the finale is basically Ross turns into the Red Hulk, he's destroying the White House, he's fighting against Sam Wilson's Captain America, and Sam's whole goal is to make him un-Hulk. That's it. Okay? Some people might say that's urgent, but I would argue stopping a World War III from starting is much more urgent than that. Okay? Because that's a worldwide effect thing, not just a city or a place. And that's the thing that pissed me off. I was like, if you had Thaddeus Ross turn into the Hulk during that whole fight scene on the Indian Ocean, and then Thaddeus Ross jumps over to the Japan fleet and starts destroying warships with his bare fists, and even during that scene, Thaddeus Ross was holding back turning into the Red Hulk like he was starting to, and, the leader was, pushing him into it. I was like, oh, this will actually be interesting if he turns into the Red Hulk here. Because if you see that Thaddeus Ross turns into the Red Hulk and then attacks a foreign army's navy, one that's supposed to be our ally but can start a war, not only are the stakes high in the sense of there's a world war on the line here, but now Thaddeus is also the freaking Hulk on top of that. And he's the one damaging the ships, not some, stupid, fighter jets. You can still do the fighter jet stuff, but have them fighting the Hulk instead of shooting bombs and missiles at the Japan ships. It would be more interesting to me. So at the end, and it would be more personal, because you would have the leader, the president of the United States, as a Hulk, destroying Japan's navy. That's a big deal. And with the political stuff they already had going on in the movie, that would have made for a lot more interesting of a story to have that all take place. Because not only is it the American army fighting, and bombing the Japan fleet, it's literally the president destroying the Japan fleet at that point, right? So that whole, last two battles could have been meshed together, and I think worked in a much better way in terms of urgency of the movie, the stakes of the movie. It would have got me more on the edge of my seat than just watching Sam Wilson fighting the Red Hulk to calm him down. That was my major issue with the, as great as the Red Hulk fight scene was visually and fun to watch, I think if they made him turn into the Red Hulk when he was on the carrier in the middle of the Indian Ocean and had him in Hulk form go and attack the Japan fleet and have Sam and fighter jets be scrambled to stop him and stuff, it would have been much more convincing and it would have had me on the edge of my seat more, and it would have felt like there's actual stakes. Like, you have the President of the United States as a Hulk attacking the Japan fleet, which is literally going to lead to World War III, and Captain America needs to not only stop the Hulk, but stop World War III from happening at the same time. That would have been interesting. In a political thriller like this was supposed to be, that could have redeemed a lot of the shortcomings prior to the movie, or earlier on in the movie. And like I said, all they had to do in this movie was change a few things, and this movie would have easily been an 8. That's how crazy it is. It could have went from a 6 to an 8 off of a few little changes. That end fight scene, the last 2 fight scenes in the movie, which were basically back to back, you didn't even need the White House part. Cut the White House part out and make it a part of the end fight scene. You could have actually led into the end fight from the second to end fight. Oh yeah, you have the bombers that are mind controlled to blow up the Japan fleet. Okay, Sam Wilson stops them. So Samuel Stern says, darn, that plan failed. Well, let me get Ross to Hulk out, gets him to Hulk out, and then has Ross, as Hulk, be targeted to go attack the Japan fleet. Perfect. There you go. You lead right into the second to last fight scene, which already was visually really cool and stuff, and you could have kept it, but then you changed the end fight scene instead of taking it to the White House and resolving the Japan issue. You instead just lead into the end fight through that second to last fight. And it would have been better, in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think about that idea pitched. Because for those of you that have seen Captain America Brave New World, I guarantee you'll probably like what I just barely pitched to you guys much better than what we got. It was still cool, but I think that would have done a better job storyline-wise. It would have made the stakes better. Even though the rest of the movie would have been kind of meh to get to that point, it would have been much better to do that. At least it would have, like, if Samuel Stearns is like, I can start World War III, destroy General Ross's, reputation as president all in one sweep during that one fight scene, perfect. Solves everything. I think the whole White House scene and him turning himself in and stuff was just unnecessary garbage they didn't need to do. I thought it was really ridiculous. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on Captain America Brave New World. I thought the performances were relatively meh. I thought, Harrison Ford did a great job. They even changed, like, there's a character in here that's like Bar something. Like, it's the small female protagonist. She was originally supposed to be Sabre or something like that, or Sabra, who's like an Israeli superhero. And you can clearly tell that she was supposed to be that because she has a suit underneath her jacket. That they cut out those scenes and the suit from the movie because of the whole Israel-Palestine conflict. And changed her backstory to being a Black Widow. So, instead of her mutant powers from the comics, so they did a lot of changing from that too. So this movie, as much of a clusterfuck it could have been much worse. Movie could have been a lot worse. I'm actually happy it was kind of okay. Like, it was not great. It was not great, but it was good enough where I'm like, well, you got nothing better to do on the weekend, and, you don't have anything going on, go watch it. It's not the worst thing the MCU has put out for sure. But that leads us into the rest of the year and what Marvel is bringing. Let's start with Daredevil because that's coming next. We're literally, I think, a few weeks out from Daredevil, maybe a little over a few weeks, from the first 2 episodes dropping in March. I am so pumped for this series, guys. This feels like Avengers Endgame all over for me. And I know we're talking about Daredevil, and it's not, a 10-plus year build-up movie or anything like that. But I absolutely love Daredevil. He's my favorite character in terms of the TV side of Marvel. They did his series really great. Anybody you talk to who has watched Daredevil thinks that either it's the best Marvel show ever done, or even just in TV in general, for those that have watched it. And if you haven't watched it, I strongly encourage you, go to Disney Plus, turn on your, TVMA stuff, your adult rating stuff, and watch Daredevil. It is freaking good. Seasons 1 and 3 in particular are the 2 best. Season 2 is not bad, but 1 and 3 are amazing. So I definitely highly recommend it. And watch it before Daredevil Born Again, because it's basically a follow-in to that, which is basically season 4. But the trailers, they put a new one out the other day with some more footage and stuff. Oh my gosh, dude. I'm so excited for this thing. A lot of people are. Daredevil Born Again has the potential to start the renaissance of the MCU. It might fail terribly, as most Marvel projects have lately. But Daredevil has a very high chance of being good. And that is crazy, because Marvel's been on a very low streak lately of bad projects. I'm excited to see where they take everything. I'm just simply excited at the prospect of what they can do with Daredevil. And the story. And 2 episodes on the first day is great, but if they're like an hour apiece, I'm going to have a very good March 5th. I think that's when it drops. I'm going to have a very good day. I'm going to be eating very well. And I will definitely be doing reviews on that for sure, so stay tuned for that. I'm actually looking very forward to doing those reviews. And if the show sucks, I'm going to be so mad and heated. You guys are going to have a great rant section. So either you're going to have a very excited, enthusiastic review because it's so good, or you're going to have me screaming into the mic and just absolutely pissed off at how bad they butchered my boy. So it's one or the other. Now, while Daredevil's my favorite, TV hero, second favorite in the comics, second favorite Marvel hero, because obviously Spider-Man's number 1 for me. One thing that I was not expecting is the Thunderbolts to get me excited. When the Thunderbolts was first announced, I didn't care. First trailer came out. Wasn't really impressed. Nothing made me say I need to watch this. Then the Super Bowl happens, and Marvel Studios puts a TV spot out for Thunderbolts. Let me tell you why a Super Bowl spot is a big deal, first of all. If Marvel Studios is spending, billions of dollars, with a B, for a Super Bowl spot for a film, not Fantastic Four, which is what I was expecting, but Thunderbolts means they have high expectations and confidence in that film. You do not buy a super expensive Super Bowl spot for a movie that sucks ass. You don't do it. Not happening. Okay? If you see a movie get advertised at the Super Bowl, the studio has a lot of confidence in it. I watched the second trailer of Thunderbolts, the full trailer on YouTube, and that trailer was good. It got me excited. I'm intrigued. We get to see Sentry and the Void. Yes, the Void gets introduced in this. I'm actually interested in seeing what they do with the Void. So let me talk about the Void first of all. You know Null, God of the Symbiotes, God of the Void, if you will. Yeah, he's connected directly to the Void. Null is. God of the Void, born in darkness, literally. I don't know if this is Marvel Studios doing what they did with Thor 4, where they took the Necro Sword, which was Null's creation, mind you, the first symbiote ever created, all black, and they redid the origin so it could work in the MCU, but it's not connected to Null. And now we're getting the Void, which is also connected to Null. So is Marvel Studios going to redo the origin of the Void so that way it can fit in the MCU? Or did Sony and Marvel make a deal behind the scenes to bring Null into the fold of this multiverse shenanigan that we are a part of right now, or the storyline that we're a part of? It's possible. I don't think Sony's done with Null, even though Venom is done as a franchise. I don't think Sony's done with Null. I don't know if he'll be in Secret Wars. I don't know if he has anything to do with the next 2 Avengers films. He might. I'm not putting it out of possibility. Sony has been pushing very, very hard for more MCU connective tissue for a while. And the Void might actually be connected to Null, or they're reworking it for the MCU. I'm curious to see how they do it. I am one of the few people that actually did not hate the Null idea in Venom 3. I like Null in the comics, and his look in Venom 3 and, how he talked and stuff when he was on screen was done well. Granted, they didn't have enough time with him to really mess him up, but with what they did well. And I want to see Null as an Avengers level villain someday, but with Sony being the holders of the Spider-Man characters, I don't know if we ever will. But if we have any chance, the multiverse, the Void being in the MCU now, maybe something was worked out. But if it was, I'm hoping Marvel is dealing with Null and not Sony, because damn, that would suck. But yeah, so the Void is introduced. Sentry is basically the Superman of the MCU, fighting against super soldiers or regular people in the Thunderbolts. So, not sure how that's going to work, but we'll see. And the major thing about the Thunderbolts is it's kind of like Captain America in a way, where they're taking a super powerful villain, Red Hulk, Sentry, and placing them against people that are not even in their power ranking level. Meaning that either there's going to be some secret weapon to destroy or hurt Sentry, or they're going to remove the Void from him, turning him good, or I don't know. But they can't beat him, is my guess. So at the end of the day, there's that. And, I'm interested to see what they do with Taskmaster. Taskmaster hasn't been in much marketing for the Thunderbolts. So a lot of people are thinking Taskmaster's going to die. Here's what I don't understand about Taskmaster. Black Widow freed her, so that way she no longer had to be Taskmaster. So why is she still Taskmaster? I don't know if the MCU is actually going to do Taskmaster right. I hope so someday. As somebody who is a huge Taskmaster fan, and Taskmaster is my number one Marvel villain of all time, seeing what they've done to Taskmaster has pissed me off royally for a while. But if you're gonna use Taskmaster and ruin him, at least make the new incarnation kind of okay. If you keep the mask on, and I don't have to see that it's not Tony Masters, I can just make up in my head that it's Tony Masters. I can make it up in my own head. But logically, story-wise, I don't know how Antonia Dreykov goes from being freed from her mind control, and Black Widow's like, you don't have to do this anymore, you're free. And then she's like, fuck it, I'm still gonna keep being Taskmaster. Just seems like it doesn't make sense to me. We'll see how we'll see how the movie deals with that. But it looks like a good film. It looks like it's going to be a fun time. It looks like it has more plot and intrigue than most of the other movies. Fantastic Four, I'm still on the fence about. I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan. The only thing I'm super excited about when it comes to that movie is Silver Surfer and Galactus, because they look great. Don't know how the story's going to be. Don't know about any of that. But at least we got a good-looking Galactus. So even if the movie is terrible, I can at least rest assured that the MCU can at least make him look right. Because some of these designs, like, the MCU has an issue of doing good and bad designs of characters. There are characters out there that are designed so perfectly. Okay? Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, in Thor 1, in my opinion, I like the best. You've got some great looking characters. Even Hulk and the Incredible Hulk look great. You have some great designs. Even Taskmaster's design, I think, looks pretty good. Even though I'm not a fan of the character, the design was relatively good. And I'm just sitting there thinking to myself, damn, why do they have some really good designs? And then you have things like the leader in Captain America, Brave New World. You have designs on that level of atrocity. Like, you've got really good designs and really bad designs, and the MCU just seems to either go one way or the other. I don't freaking get it, dude. I don't get it. The MCU is all over the place when it comes to their designs for characters. But when it comes down to it, man, you know, he does look good. Galactus does look good. At the end of the day, though, right, as a Marvel fan, I want the MCU to succeed. The main issue going into Doomsday and Secret Wars, there has been more bad to mediocre Marvel projects in the past half decade. Yes. It's been over 5 years, guys, since Endgame. Time's flown. Remember when we were here on PC Boiz, me, David, and Kevin, and we were rambling on about Endgame and Infinity War, doing our reviews and just talking every week about it with so much passion. And now the MCU's gotten to a point where it's like, yeah, this movie's kind of okay. And you enjoy it enough, but it's not great. And we want great Marvel back. Granted, I think Daredevil, Thunderbolts, maybe Fantastic Four could all be great. And that is a good setup leading into, of course, Avengers Doomsday next May, I believe. And whatever other things they have planned in between. Like Marvel Zombies and stuff like... I am excited for Marvel Zombies. This Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man show, I'll be honest with you, I haven't even watched it. I'm a Spider-Man fan. I have had no interest to watch this series. I'm not a fan of the animation. Really, that's it. The animation, not it for me, dog. Maybe I'll get around... Maybe when I'm not watching Daredevil Born Again and I've watched the episode for that week, I'll watch Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man just to pass the time. Just to have something to watch in the morning on a day off from work or something. When I'm eating my breakfast or something, you know. That's what I'll probably do. By then, the series will probably be completely out by that point. But yeah. I'm really upset that Marvel hasn't been great. The major issue is when you build up to something like an Endgame and an Infinity War, the hype was there. People cared about the characters. They were invested in the story. Everything felt connected. There was a direction. Thanos, the Infinity Stones, all on a collision course with the Avengers and Earth. The problem with Doomsday and Secret Wars, there is no direction. Most Disney Plus series are doing their own thing and slightly connecting into the multiverse or not. Same thing with the movies. They're doing their own thing, connecting into the multiverse or not. Everything is not connected. I don't know where we're going. That's the issue. Originally, it was Kang. We are headed towards Kang, the Council of Kangs, coming after the Avengers, coming after the multiverse, and having the multiversal war. There was a direction and something I was excited about at the end of Loki Season 1, and then once Jonathan Majors got wrapped up in that whole lawsuit stuff, and now it's like, what's happening? The intrigue is gone. Oh, we're bringing Robert Downey Jr. back as Doctor Doom. I don't care about Doctor Doom. Like, don't get me wrong, it's cool. Like, the idea is cool, and Doctor Doom is awesome in the comics. And when you talk about Secret Wars, Battle World, and all that, it's great. But if we're talking about the MCU, there is no build-up to Doctor Doom. No references, nothing to show how powerful he is, nothing. It's just, yeah, Doctor Doom's coming. You found out about it at a Marvel Disney press conference. That's not exciting. they're telling you who the villain's going to be, but they're not showing anything. With Kang, you know, you got to see a little. All disappointing. I mean, Kang got killed multiple freaking times. Got killed by Ant-Man of all people. So yeah, once Quantumania happened, people weren't so, okay, Kang's kind of, nah. Even if the Council of Kangs whooped the Avengers' butts, destroyed Earth, destroyed the multiverse, the lead up to that wouldn't be Kang is all that, because he's already been beaten by Ant-Man and Sylvie and others. So, you know, not super exciting. Just throwing Doctor Doom in there with no build-up, anticlimactic. And that's the major issue. There's two major issues leading into the next Avengers. The stories are all disconnected, discombobulated, not really leading towards anything, and the connective tissue is so thin. The most connective tissue there is Deadpool and Wolverine, Loki, and No Way Home. Those three projects have the most connective tissue, and it's barely even connected. It's only because those three deal with the multiverse, flat out right. And I guess Ant-Man to a little bit of an extent, but that movie was trash regardless. At least the other three were fun to watch or decent. But that's it. Those are the only three projects that, directly connect to each other in any kind of meaningful way. And it's upsetting, because I'm not excited about Doomsday. I'm not excited about Secret Wars. Granted, we have no trailers. They're starting to film Doomsday soon, so eventually we'll start getting some behind-the-scenes photos and leaks and stuff like that. And then, there'll be more excitement then. But, as of right now, we're not, I haven't seen Doom. We don't know what he's capable of. We don't know what the threat level is like and what his end goal is and all that. We know it's Battle World, but outside of that, we don't know. Because Marvel changes stuff from the comics to do their own, original take with inspirations from comic storylines. But we don't know. And without direction, without this connective tissue that the original movies have, the original Marvel Studios movies in phases 1 through 3 were all connected. Oh, this thing happened in Avengers Endgame. The Sokovia Accords were created in Civil War to address that thing that happened in the, prior few movies. Or with Iron Man destroying all of his suits, so that's why he creates the Iron Legion in, Avengers Age of Ultron. There's little connective tissue between each and every movie that bleeds over in dialogue or world events, in the politics of the Marvel Universe. All that stuff connected to each other. All this Phase 4 and 5 stuff has been non-connected. Nothing affects anything. The stuff that happens in Black Panther has affected nothing else in the MCU. Thus far. Spider-Man has affected nothing into the MCU thus far. Kamala Khan's little stint in Ms. Marvel has connected to nothing in the MCU thus far. Shang-Chi connected to nothing in the MCU thus far. You see what I'm saying? All these projects have had little connected tissue to each other. Nothing impacting another show in any kind of way. Whether that's via dialogue lines, events in the world, governmental changes, nothing. The most connective tissue we've had is the Department of Damage Control. That's it. That is the only piece of connective tissue that we've had. In Ms. Marvel and Spider-Man. That's the most that we've got. Outside of the multiverse concept itself. And the biggest damning part. We don't care about most of the characters. Kate Bishop hasn't done anything since Hawkeye. Oh no, she died. Who was that character again? Miss Marvel. She's been in 2 projects, so Miss Marvel's had more going on for her than Kate Bishop. Miss Marvel dies, people will probably care more than Kate Bishop, but still they're gonna who is this character? Unless you watch the Marvels or Miss Marvel, you ain't gonna know who it is. I personally enjoyed Miss Marvel. A lot of people didn't watch it though, because it was geared towards a younger audience. And most Marvel fans are growing up. They're either my age, early 20s, or in their 30s or 40s. So yeah, there's, a lot of factors to take into play here. A lot of factors to take into play. And it's unfortunate because Marvel used to be, every movie was an event leading towards the big Avengers movie that was coming down the road. It was a journey. it was all connected. Everything was important. Everything bled into each movie. The Avengers had effects on Spider-Man's story. Even though the movies are literally like, what? 2017, 2012, they were like 5 years apart when they made those movies. But the events of the Avengers is literally what gave Spider-Man Homecoming the villain. And what Peter ended up doing. The Sokovia Accords also affected Peter in becoming an Avenger and getting his new suit and leading him down that path. Right? Tony Stark creating the Department of Damage Control. I mean, Spider-Man Homecoming is a nexus of Marvel, everything happening in the MCU affecting future stories. There was an original scene that was cut from Homecoming showing the Triskelion cleanup. At, the whole thing that happened in Captain America Winter Soldier with the whole helicarriers busting into the shield base and stuff. Originally, that destruction, that cleanup, was going to be in the film when they were going through DC to the Decathlon. They cut it, but it was originally an idea. Everything in Spider-Man Homecoming was affected because of everything prior in the MCU. And Marvel has strayed so far from that. Everything Marvel comes out with now feels like its own individual story, which it should, but with little connective tissue to the other movies. Spider-Man was going after the Vulture, okay? As he called him, the winged bat guy, Vulture guy. He was going after him. That was his story, proving himself to Tony Stark to become an Avenger, right? That was his whole thing. And while I wasn't a big fan of the Iron Boy Jr. thing and stuff like that, it had its own plot. But you could see the effects on the world in the Marvel Universe through Peter's eyes. The Triskelion cleanup, right? The cleanup of New York and how that ended up creating the Vulture and his whole illegal arms dealing business, right? The Sokovia Accords are mentioned in Peter's high school. Right? The Avengers, those events are mentioned. Actually, Spider-Man, all of Spider-Man's movies, regardless of what I think of all of them, me thinking Homecoming is the best of the three, all are centered around MCU events. The MCU has had a lot happen in it. And in every Spider-Man movie, things that happen in the MCU affect Spider-Man. Always. It's weird how Spider-Man has the most connective tissue in the MCU than most movies do, and it's a co-joint studio movie. In Captain America Brave New World, there was finally some connective tissue between the Eternals and that whole thing and everybody fighting for adamantium. It created some kind of conflict. Those events. The Incredible Hulk very much directly influenced the movie. So, there is connective tissue. Prior to that, what other MCU movie or TV show has been affected by the overall MCU? Not much has been. Wakanda Forever was very self-contained. Moon Knight, Moon Knight. Moon Knight literally is the one Marvel show that has no connection to the MCU outside of, I think, a slight mention or nod to anything in the MCU, slightly. Everything else, though, barely any connective tissue. So like I said, Marvel needs to connect things again. Don't make everything be like, yeah, Avengers Easter eggs all over this movie, but have events that happen in each movie affect another movie in some little way. That's all you need for connective tissue. We haven't had that in a while. Unfortunately. Make us care about the characters. We care about Sam, we care about Bucky, we care about Yelena. Yelena being one of the more successful newer characters by far. We care about Spider-Man. Right? We care about Doctor Strange. Care about Wong. Everybody loves Wong. But all the new characters, people don't have much anything towards. Kate Bishop, Not many people have a connection to her. Those that watch Hawkeye do, but most don't. Even Daredevil, as much as I love Daredevil, even I have to admit, most people don't know who Daredevil is. Most people did not watch the Marvel Netflix series. Even when Marvel Netflix and Daredevil was at its highest peak, even then it was a fraction of people that watched any Disney Plus Marvel show. It's not even close in viewership at all. And Marvel's Daredevil is an amazing series, unfortunately, that like many people have not experienced. But at the end of the day, guys, that is a podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. I had a lot of thoughts to talk about. You know, this has been an hour-long podcast. I haven't done an hour-long podcast probably since the early days of this podcast inception. But I had a review, so something to get into. But Marvel, now that there's some excitement, there's more for me to dive into. It's hard for me to dive into a movie or anything if it's all boring or bad news. I mean, sure, you can rant about stuff, but like, I don't want to rant about everything. I want to be like, yeah, I'm excited, let's go. Daredevil's that for me, dude. Daredevil is that for me. But I can't really get into it more than I can till we get to it. I've already talked about all the trailers, the behind-the-scenes photos. I've given you guys everything I can on Daredevil Born Again. Now we just have to watch the series, and I can tell you guys if it's so good. Like, I want to be able to say it's as good as the original, but I'll be able to tell you it's so good, it's mid, or it's trash. I'll be able to tell you whatever. I'm expecting a lot, though. Kevin Feige redid it from the ground up, so he has no excuse for it to be trash. Do I expect it to be as good as the Netflix series? No. But if it can be close, or somehow better, that would be a very welcome surprise.